A female detective lies bleeding in a frozen Detroit sewer, 2 bullets in her body left to die by the man who pinned her badge 5 years ago. Lieutenant Commander Derek Hollis shot his own protege and walked away believing the February blizzard would bury his crime forever. But at 2 a.m., a retired Navy SEAL's war dog catches a scent through the storm. Shadow refuses to leave. Now Marcus Cole must choose trust the system that destroyed him or wage war against the corruption wearing a badge. The mentor became the executioner. The stranger became the only hope. Before we begin, tell us where you're watching from. Subscribe and stay until the end to see justice served. Marcus Cole hadn't slept in 4 days. Not real sleep, anyway. The kind where you close your eyes and your mind goes quiet, and the world stops pressing down on your chest like a concrete slab. That kind of sleep had abandoned him somewhere in a bombed-out village in Syria 3 years ago, and it hadn't bothered to come back. So he ran. 2 in the morning. February wind cutting through Detroit like a blade temperature, hovering somewhere around 8 degrees, and Marcus Cole ran through the abandoned industrial district like the devil himself was chasing him. Maybe he was. Shadow ran beside him, the 6-year-old Belgian Malinois matching his pace with effortless grace. The dog's breath plumed white in the darkness, his paws barely making a sound on the frozen pavement. Shadow had been with Marcus through 3 deployments, countless missions, and 1 catastrophic ambush that had killed 4 good men and left Marcus with a metal plate in his skull and a medical discharge he hadn't asked for. The dog understood things that humans couldn't. He understood that sometimes a man needed to exhaust his body to quiet his mind. He understood that the nightmares never fully went away. And he understood with that preternatural instinct that made him worth his weight in gold when something was wrong. Shadow stopped running. Marcus noticed immediately. In 6 years of partnership, Shadow had never broken formation without cause. The dog stood rigid, his ears rotating like satellite dishes, his whole body vibrating with tension. "What is it, boy?" Shadow didn't bark. He was trained better than that. But a low growl rumbled in his chest, and he turned toward a collapsed drainage tunnel that Marcus had passed 100 times without ever really seeing. "Show me." The dog moved like smoke, leading Marcus through a gap in the chain-link fence that surrounded the derelict water treatment facility. The smell hit Marcus first sewage rust, and something else. Something that made his combat instincts flare red. Blood. Fresh blood. Shadow stopped at the edge of a concrete culvert, looking back at Marcus with an urgency that needed no translation. Marcus pulled the tactical flashlight from his running belt and clicked it on. Dear God. A woman lay at the bottom of the drainage tunnel, half submerged in freezing muck and gray slush. She was wearing what was left of a Detroit police detective's uniform, though the tactical vest had been torn open, and her shirt was dark with blood. Her face was swollen, one eye completely shut, her dark hair matted with filth and frozen to the concrete. She wasn't moving. Marcus dropped into the culvert without hesitation, the icy water shocking his legs as he splashed toward her. His fingers found her neck, pressing against the carotid artery, searching for any sign of life. There. Faint. Thready. But there. "Hold on," he whispered. "I've got you." Her eyes fluttered open, just barely, just enough for Marcus to see the terror in them. "Hollis," she breathed. The word came out broken, wet with blood. "Hollis, did this..." Then she was gone again, unconscious, her body going limp in his arms. Marcus didn't know anyone named Hollis. He didn't know this woman. But he knew gunshot wounds when he saw them, and he counted 2, 1 in her side, 1 lower near her hip. The shots were precise, professional. Not the scattered pattern of a street crime, but the deliberate placement of someone who knew exactly where to put bullets to cause maximum suffering before death. Someone had executed this woman and left her to die in the sewage. His hand brushed against something metal, and he looked down. Her badge lay in the muck beside her, bent and crushed, stomped flat like someone had ground it under their heel. The act wasn't practical. It was personal. It was hatred. Marcus lifted her out of the water, cradling her against his chest. She weighed nothing, this broken woman, but the weight of what had been done to her pressed down on him like all the sins of the world. Shadow barked once, sharp, warning, headlights. Marcus killed his flashlight and pressed himself against the curved wall of the culvert the woman clutched tight against him. Above on the service road, a vehicle had stopped. Not passing through. Hunting. Doors opened. Boots crunched on frozen ground. "Check the drain." The voice was male, authoritative, and chillingly calm. Marcus recognized the cadence immediately, law enforcement. But the words weren't the words of a rescue party. "I hit her twice," another voice said. "She crawled off like a rat, but she couldn't have gotten far. The lieutenant commander wants confirmation. Find the body." Flashlight beams swept across the snow above. Marcus held his breath, his body shielding the unconscious woman. Shadow pressed flat against the concrete beside him. One beam swung toward the culvert opening. For a heart-stopping moment, it illuminated the bloodstain on the concrete where the woman had been lying. "Nothing here. Current probably dragged her under. She's frozen by now." "Hollis won't like assumptions." "Then Hollis can come check himself. I'm not crawling through sewage at 2 a.m. Doors slammed. The engine faded into the distance. Marcus didn't move for a full 5 minutes. When he finally exhaled, his breath came out in a shuddering cloud. He looked down at the woman in his arms, at her crushed badge, at the professional wounds that were meant to kill her slowly. Someone named Hollis had done this. Someone with access to police resources. Someone who had sent hunters to make sure she was dead. Marcus thought about calling 911. He thought about the proper channels. He thought about all the systems that were supposed to protect people like this woman. Then he thought about how those systems had failed her so completely that she was bleeding out in a sewer. He made his decision. Shadow heal. Marcus climbed out of the culvert with the woman in his arms and disappeared into the Detroit night. The auto shop had been closed for 6 years, ever since Uncle Ray's heart gave out in the middle of a transmission rebuild. Marcus had inherited it along with a mountain of debt and a lifetime of memories, and he'd never had the heart to sell it. Now the building sat dark and forgotten on a dead-end street in a neighborhood that the city had abandoned to decay. It was perfect. Marcus laid the woman on the cleanest surface he could find, a workbench he'd covered with moving blankets and plastic sheeting. The shop was cold, but he got the ancient space heaters running, and within 20 minutes the temperature had climbed to something approaching survivable. He worked quickly, cutting away her ruined uniform to assess the damage. The wounds were bad. The bullet in her side had passed clean through, missing her kidney by millimeters. The one in her hip was still lodged somewhere deep, and the surrounding tissue was already showing signs of infection. She needed a hospital. She needed surgery. She needed things Marcus couldn't provide. But if he took her to a hospital, whoever had done this would know within the hour. And they would come to finish the job. He pulled out his phone and dialed a number he hadn't used in 2 years. "This better be important," a gruff voice answered. "It's 3 in the damn morning." "Patch, it's Marcus. I need you." Silence. Then, "Where?" "Ray's old shop. And bring everything." "How bad?" "Bad." The line went dead. Harold Patch Morrison had served as a combat medic in Vietnam, Korea, and every forgotten conflict in between. He was 68 years old, built like a fire hydrant, and had hands that could perform surgery in a foxhole while mortars exploded overhead. He'd saved Marcus's life twice, once in Syria, and once in a VA hospital where Marcus had been bleeding out from a wound the doctors had missed. He arrived in 30 minutes carrying a medical bag that looked like it had survived multiple wars. Patch took one look at the woman on the workbench and let out a low whistle. "Police?" he asked, noting the remnants of her uniform. "Detective, from what I can tell." "And you brought her here instead of a hospital because the people who shot her are wearing badges too." Patch's expression didn't change. He'd seen too much of the world's darkness to be surprised by anything. He simply nodded and began unpacking his supplies. "I'll need you to assist. You remember how—" "I remember." For the next 2 hours, the auto shop became an operating theater. Patch extracted the bullet from her hip, cleaned and sutured both wounds, and pumped her full of antibiotics and fluids. Marcus held retractors-handed instruments and monitored her vitals with equipment that Patch had probably stolen from 3 different military installations. Shadow sat in the corner, throughout his amber eyes fixed on the woman, a low whine escaping his throat every time she twitched or moaned. "She's strong," Patch said, finally stripping off his bloody gloves. "The infection's bad, but I've got her on enough antibiotics to kill an elephant. If her fever breaks by morning, she'll live. If not—" He didn't finish. He didn't need to. "Who is she?" Marcus had found her wallet during the surgery. He pulled it out now, studying the detective's shield and the ID card beside it. "Elena Vance, Detective Major Crimes Division, 8 years on the force. And someone tried to execute her. Someone named Hollis. That's what she said before she passed out." Patch's face went still. "Hollis. You sure? You know the name." "Derek Hollis, Lieutenant Commander, Detroit PD. He runs the Joint Task Force on Organized Crime. Decorated officer, political connections up to his eyeballs." Patch shook his head slowly. "If he's the one who did this, you've stepped into something ugly, son." "I've handled ugly before. Not like this. This isn't a firefight where you can see your enemy. This is a snake pit. You won't know who's on your side until they're already biting." Marcus looked at Elena Vance, unconscious and broken, but still breathing. He thought about what it took to leave someone you knew, someone you'd worked with, to die in a sewer like garbage. "She has family." Patch checked her wallet again. "Photo in here. Little girl, maybe 5 or 6. And there's an emergency contact listed. Mother different, last name." A daughter. This woman had a daughter who didn't know her mother was lying in an abandoned auto shop fighting for her life. "I need to know what she knows," Marcus said. "Whatever she had on Hollis, it was important enough to kill for." "Then you better pray that fever breaks, because right now the only witness to whatever happened is a woman who might not wake up." Elena Vance woke up screaming. It was nearly noon, 12 hours after Marcus had pulled her from the sewer. The fever had spiked twice during the night, and both times Marcus had been certain they were going to lose her. But each time she'd fought her way back, her body refusing to surrender to the infection that was trying to claim it. The scream wasn't pain. It was terror. "No, don't, please. Derek, don't do this." Marcus was at her side in an instant, his hands on her shoulders, trying to ground her. "You're safe. Elena, you're safe. Look at me." Her eyes snapped open, wild and unfocused. For a moment, she didn't seem to see him. She was somewhere else, trapped in the memory of what had been done to her. "He shot me." Her voice was a ragged whisper. "He looked me in the eye, and he shot me." "Who? Tell me who?" "Hollis." The name came out like poison. "Lieutenant Commander Derek Hollis. My mentor. The man who trained me. The man who pinned my badge on me 5 years ago." She started to shake, violent tremors that had nothing to do with cold. "He called me into his office, said he wanted to discuss my career. I thought he was going to promote me." Her laugh was bitter, broken. "But he knew. Somehow he knew about the files I'd copied. The evidence I'd been gathering. He knew everything. Evidence of what? Elena looked at Marcus for the first time. Really looked at him. Her eyes narrowed, trying to make sense of where she was, and who this stranger beside her might be. Who are you? Marcus Cole, Navy SEAL retired. My dog found you in that drainage tunnel. You were dying. Why didn't you call the police? Because the police tried to kill you. Elena closed her eyes. When she opened them again, something had shifted. The terror was still there, but it was being pushed aside by something harder, something colder. Hollis is selling stolen military technology, drone guidance systems, the kind that can bypass anti-aircraft defenses. He's been running the operation for 2 years using his task force as cover. Marcus felt his stomach drop. How do you know this? Because I found the shipping manifests, the financial records, the communications with buyers overseas. Elena's hand gripped Marcus's arm with surprising strength. I was going to turn it over to the FBI. I had a meeting scheduled for tomorrow morning, but Hollis found out. The evidence. Where is it now? Gone. My apartment, my car, my locker at the precinct. He'll have cleaned everything out by now. But there's one copy he doesn't know about. She paused. Her breathing labored. My daughter Maya. She's 6 years old. She has a teddy bear she can't sleep without. I hid a flash drive inside it. All the evidence. Everything. Where is she now? With my mother. She doesn't know. Nobody knows. Elena's eyes filled with tears. My baby thinks I'm at work. She doesn't know her mother is... She'll know you're alive, Marcus said firmly. We're going to get that evidence, we're going to expose Hollis, and you're going to see your daughter again. Do you understand me? Elena studied his face, searching for something. Deception, maybe, or false promises. She found neither. Why are you helping me? You don't know me. You don't owe me anything. Marcus thought about the question. He thought about everything he'd lost: his team, his career, his sense of purpose. He thought about all the nights he'd spent running through empty streets trying to outpace demons that always caught up. Because I swore an oath, he said finally, to protect people who couldn't protect themselves. Getting discharged didn't change that. Meeting you didn't change that. If Hollis is selling weapons to our enemies, then stopping him isn't just about saving you. It's about saving everyone those weapons might kill. Shadow had been watching the conversation from his spot by the door. Now he stood and padded over to the workbench, resting his head on Elena's arm. She looked at the dog, startled. His name is Shadow, Marcus said. He's the one who found you. He wouldn't leave until I came to see what he'd discovered. Elena reached out with a trembling hand and stroked Shadow's head. Good boy, she whispered. Good, good boy. Shadow's tail wagged once. An endorsement. The television in this corner of the shop had been off for years, but Marcus got it working well enough to catch the noon news. What he saw made his blood run cold. A press conference, the steps of Detroit Police Headquarters, Lieutenant Commander Derek Hollis standing at a podium, surrounded by brass and politicians, his face a mask of anguished concern. Detective Elena Vance has been a valued member of this department for 8 years. It breaks my heart to stand here today and tell you that she has betrayed everything we stand for. The words hit Elena like physical blows. She struggled to sit up, staring at the screen. Over the past several months, Detective Vance was recruited by foreign agents to steal classified information from our joint task force operations. When confronted with evidence of her espionage, she became violent, attacking a fellow officer before fleeing. Liar, Elena breathed. You lying son of a... Detective Vance is considered armed and extremely dangerous. If you see her, do not approach. Contact law enforcement immediately. Hollis paused, and when he spoke again, his voice cracked with theatrical emotion. Elena, if you're watching this, please, turn yourself in. We can get you help. You're not well. You haven't been well for a long time. Think of Maya. Think of your daughter." The conference ended with Hollis wiping his eyes, the consummate performance of a grieving mentor betrayed by his protege. Elena was shaking so hard, Marcus thought she might tear her stitches. "He murdered me," she said. "He shot me and left me to die, and now he's standing on television calling me a traitor. My daughter is going to see this. My mother is going to see this. Everyone I've ever known is going to see this." "Then we show them the truth. How the evidence is in my daughter's teddy bear. My mother's house is being watched. Hollis will have officers on every street corner." Marcus pulled out his phone. "You're not the only one with contacts, Elena. I spent 12 years in special operations. The people I worked with don't forget." He dialed. "Bishop, it's Cole. I need a meeting. Tonight." He listened for a moment, then nodded. "Bring Torque. This one's going to need her particular skills." He hung up and looked at Elena. "Whatever happens next, you need to understand something. The people I'm about to call in, they don't operate by the rules you're used to. They're not police. They're not military anymore. They're ghosts. And once we start down this road, there's no going back." Elena looked at the television where the news was now showing her department photo alongside the word "Wanted" in bold red letters. "I'm already dead," she said. "Hollis made sure of that. The only question now is whether I stay dead or whether I come back and make him pay." Shadow barked. Once. Sharp, approving. Marcus smiled grimly. "Then let's go to war." The warehouse where Marcus held his meetings was a relic of Detroit's manufacturing glory days, a vast cathedral of rust and shadows that had been abandoned so long that the city had simply forgotten it existed. He'd used it as a rally point 3 times before, back when he was still active, and needed a secure location for sensitive briefings. Tonight, it would serve a different purpose. Elena had insisted on coming despite her wounds. Marcus had argued, but she'd simply pointed out that she was the only one who knew the full scope of what they were dealing with. Besides, she'd added with a ghost of dark humor, what was Hollis going to do? Shoot her again? So she sat in the back of Marcus's truck, wrapped in blankets, and propped against Shadow's warm bulk as they waited for the others to arrive. Bishop came first. Robert Bishop Washington was 6'4" and built like a tank with skin the color of dark coffee and eyes that seemed to see through walls. He'd been a surveillance specialist in the teams, the kind of operator who could track a target through a crowded city without ever being seen. He spoke in chess metaphors because, as he liked to say, life was just one long game against opponents who didn't know the rules. "Cole." His voice was a deep rumble. "Been a while." "Too long. Thanks for coming." "You said it was important. You don't say that unless you mean it." Bishop's eyes moved to the truck. "That the package, Detective Elena Vance, Detroit PD. Or she was until her commanding officer shot her and left her in a sewer." Bishop's expression didn't change. He'd seen too much to be shocked. "That's a serious accusation. She's got evidence, enough to burn him, but we need to extract it, and Hollis has her mother's house under surveillance." "Then we unwatch it." Torque arrived 20 minutes later, rolling up on a motorcycle that sounded like it had been built from spare parts and pure aggression. She pulled off her helmet to reveal close-cropped red hair and a face full of freckles that made her look younger than her 34 years. Donna Torque Riley had been a combat engineer before an IED took her brother and most of her faith in military leadership. She'd finished her tour, collected her discharge, and disappeared into the underground world of people who fixed things that weren't supposed to be fixable. Cars, locks, security systems, problems. "Boys," she nodded at Marcus and Bishop. "What are we blowing up tonight? Hopefully nothing, but be prepared just in case." Marcus helped Elena out of the truck and into the warehouse, where they gathered around an old metal table illuminated by a single hanging work light. Here's the situation, Marcus began. He laid out everything Elena's discovery. Hollis's betrayal, the evidence hidden in a child's teddy bear, the press conference framing her as a traitor. When he finished, silence hung in the air. Bishop spoke first. The pawn structure is compromised. Hollis controls the board. He's got media, he's got law enforcement, and he's got resources we can only guess at. Going straight for the evidence is walking into a trap. So we spring the trap first, Torque said. Draw their pieces out of position. Elena's mother's house is in Riverside, quiet neighborhood. 3-man surveillance team minimum plus response units on standby. If we go in loud, we've got maybe 4 minutes before overwhelming force arrives. Then we don't go loud. Marcus looked at Elena. Your mother. Would she cooperate if she knew the truth? Elena's face tightened. She thinks I'm a criminal right now. She's probably terrified, confused. Hollis might have already gotten to her, told her some story. But if she knew, if she saw you alive and fighting, would she help? Yes. No hesitation. She'd die for me, for Maya. Then that's our in. Marcus turned to Bishop. I need eyes on that house. Rotation schedules, surveillance positions, communication frequencies, everything. I'll have it by midnight. Torque, I need an exit route that doesn't exist on any map. Something even the cops don't know about. Detroit's got more forgotten tunnels than New York. I'll find something. And me, Elena asked. What do I do? Marcus met her eyes. You stay alive, you get stronger. And when the moment comes, you look your mother in the eye, and you make her understand that everything she's heard is a lie. Elena nodded slowly. And then we take down Derek Hollis, together. Shadow, who had been lying at Elena's feet, lifted his head and let out a soft bark. Agreement. The team was formed. The mission was set. Now they just had to survive long enough to execute it. 3 days passed. Elena's wounds began to heal. The fever broke on the second night, and by the third morning she was mobile enough to walk without assistance, though every step still sent jolts of pain through her hip. She spent her recovery time telling Marcus everything she knew about Hollis's operation. The scale of it was staggering millions of dollars in stolen military technology connections to terrorist organizations overseas and a network of corrupt officers that stretched through every level of the Detroit Police Department. He's been building this for years, Elena explained. Long before I ever joined his task force, I was just another pawn, a useful tool. He promoted the officers who could be bought and destroyed the ones who couldn't. And you couldn't be bought. He never tried. That was the strange part. He mentored me, trained me, treated me like a daughter. Her voice broke slightly. I actually trusted him. When I started finding inconsistencies in the case files, I went to him first. I thought he'd want to know. I thought we'd investigate together. But he was the source. And I was too blind to see it. You weren't blind. You were loyal. There's no shame in that. Elena looked at him with something that might have been gratitude. You sound like you're speaking from experience. Marcus was quiet for a moment. My team was killed in Syria. Ambush. Someone sold us out, gave our position to the enemy. We walked into a kill zone and only 2 of us walked out. I spent 2 years trying to find out who betrayed us. I never did. But I learned something important. What? That trust isn't weakness. Betrayal is. The person who breaks faith is the one who loses their soul, not the person who gave it. Elena absorbed this. Is that why you're helping me? Because someone betrayed you and you never got justice? Maybe. Marcus smiled, though there was no humor in it. Or maybe I'm just tired of watching good people get destroyed by bad ones. Shadow, lying between them, lifted his head and licked Elena's hand. He likes you, Marcus observed. He saved my life. I'd say we're bonded now. He doesn't bond with many people. It took him 6 months to trust me completely. Must be my natural charm. It was the first joke she'd made since he'd pulled her from the sewer. Marcus counted it as progress. On the 4th night, Bishop returned with his reconnaissance. 3-man team, 8-hour rotations. 2 in a van on Maple Street, 1-foot patrol making loops every 20 minutes. Communications are encrypted, but they're using police frequencies, which means they can be monitored. Response time. Backup is staged 3 blocks out. If the alarm goes up, you've got 6 minutes before the street is flooded. 6 minutes isn't enough. No, Bishop agreed. But I found something interesting. He spread a map on the table. There's a drainage easement that runs under the neighborhood. It connects to the old storm system that feeds into the river. Entry point is here half a mile south. Exit is in a utility access point behind a church 2 blocks from the mother's house. Underground approach, Torque said, studying the map. I like it. There's more. The grandmother's house has a back door that faces the neighbor's property. That neighbor is a 90-year-old man named Harold, who goes to bed at 7 p.m. and sleeps like the dead. The surveillance team has no angle on that approach. So we come up from below, enter through the back, extract the evidence, and disappear before they know we were there. That's the theory, Marcus looked at Elena. Can you make it half a mile underground, then 2 blocks on foot? I'll make it if I have to crawl. You won't have to crawl. Torca will have a vehicle waiting at the church. Then we do this tomorrow night. Marcus nodded. Tomorrow night. And Elena, when you see your mother, you'll have 5 minutes. Maybe less. Make them count. Elena's jaw tightened. I will. Maya Elizabeth Vance was 6 years old. She had her mother's dark hair and her grandmother's green eyes, and she believed with the absolute certainty of childhood that her mother was a hero who caught bad guys and would always come home. For 4 days, she had been told that her mother was sick, that Mommy had to go away for a while, that everything would be okay if she was just patient and brave. Maya was trying to be brave, but she was also scared. She slept with her teddy bear Mr. Buttons clutched tight against her chest, and every night she whispered the same prayer. Please bring Mommy home. Please bring Mommy home. Please bring Mommy home. She didn't know that her prayer was about to be answered. She didn't know that her teddy bear held the key to everything. And she didn't know that tomorrow night, the bad guys were going to come looking for both. The tunnel was everything Bishop had promised, dark, cramped, and forgotten. Marcus led the way, his tactical flashlight cutting through the blackness. Elena followed close behind her, breathing labored but steady. Shadow moved like a ghost at their heels, his ears swiveling constantly for any sign of threat. Torque had stayed topside, positioning the getaway vehicle and monitoring police frequencies. Bishop was on overwatch a block away, watching the surveillance team through a scope. 200 meters to the access point, Marcus murmured into his headset. Copy. Surveillance team is static. Foot patrol just started his loop. You've got an 18-minute window. Understood. They pressed on through the darkness. Elena's mind was racing. In a few minutes, she would see her mother for the first time since Hollis had turned her into a fugitive. She would have to explain in the space of a few desperate minutes that everything Patricia Vance had seen on the news was a lie. And she would have to take Mr. Buttons from her daughter without explaining why. You ready? Marcus asked as they reached the access ladder. No, Elena admitted. But I'm going anyway. That's usually how it works. Marcus climbed first, pressing his ear against the utility hatch above them. Silence. He pushed it open carefully, peering out into the darkness behind the old Methodist church. Clear. They emerged into the night, the cold air hitting Elena's lungs like a slap after the staleness of the tunnel. Shadow scrambled up behind them, shaking tunnel dust from his coat. 2 blocks, Marcus said. Stay close. They moved through backyards and shadows, avoiding streetlights, ducking behind hedges whenever a car passed. Elena's hip screamed with every step, but she gritted her teeth and kept moving. She hadn't come this far to fail now. The Vance house was a modest 2-story colonial with blue shutters and a wraparound porch. Elena had grown up in that house. She'd taken her first steps on that porch. She'd caught fireflies in that backyard. Now it was a target. Wait here, Marcus said, positioning himself behind a garden shed in the neighbor's yard. Bishop, where's the foot patrol? Just turned the corner. 8 minutes until he comes back around. Elena, go. Shadow and I will cover you. Elena took a breath, steadied herself, and slipped across the darkened yard toward the back door of her childhood home. She didn't knock. She used the key that had been hidden under the 3rd flower pot since she was 12 years old. The door opened silently. The kitchen was dark. The house smelled like her mother's cooking garlic and herbs and something baking. Such normal smells, such a contrast to the nightmare she was living. Mom. The whisper seemed deafening in the silence. A light clicked on in the living room. Elena. Patricia Vance stood in the doorway, her face a mask of shock and confusion and desperate hope. She was 62 years old, with silver hair, and the kind of quiet strength that had raised 2 daughters on a teacher's salary after her husband's death. Mom. Oh my God. Elena. Patricia moved toward her daughter, then stopped, her eyes filling with tears. They said you were dangerous. They said you'd done terrible things. There were men here asking questions. They told me you might try to contact me. They told me to call them if... Mom, listen to me. Look at me. Elena stepped into the light, letting her mother see the bruises, the healing wounds, the evidence of what had really happened. Hollis did this to me. He shot me and left me to die because I discovered he was selling weapons to terrorists. Everything they told you is a lie. I'm not a traitor. I'm not dangerous. I'm your daughter and I'm fighting for my life. Patricia's hand went to her mouth. Oh, baby. Oh, my baby. She closed the distance and pulled Elena into her arms, holding her the way she had when Elena was small, and the world was too big and too scary. I knew, Patricia whispered. I knew they were lying. I know my daughter. I know what you are. Mom, I don't have much time. I need Mr. Buttons. Maya's bare. There's a flash drive inside. Evidence. Everything I need to prove what Hollis is. Where's Maya? Asleep, upstairs. Elena's heart clenched. I can't see her. Not yet. If she knows I was here and she tells someone... I understand. Patricia's voice was steady despite her tears. I'll get the bear. Stay here. She disappeared up the stairs. Elena stood in the kitchen of her childhood home, listening to the ticking of the old grandfather clock, feeling like she was standing in someone else's life. 1 minute passed. 2. Something was wrong. Elena. Patricia's voice drifted down from upstairs, strangely flat. Can you come up here, please? Every instinct Elena had developed in 8 years as a cop screamed warning. Mom, is everything okay? Just come up, please. Elena drew the pistol Marcus had given her and moved silently toward the stairs. At the top, the hallway was dark except for a single light coming from Maya's bedroom. Elena approached slowly. Her weapon raised her heart pounding. She pushed open the door. Her mother stood in the center of the room, Maya's teddy bear clutched in her hands. Her face was pale, streaked with tears. Behind her, holding a gun to the back of her head, stood Derek Hollis. Hello, Elena, Hollis said, smiling the warm paternal smile that had fooled her for 5 years. I was hoping you'd be smart enough to stay dead, but I suppose I should have known better. I trained you too well. Maya's bed was empty. The covers were thrown back. A glass of milk sat untouched on the nightstand. Where is my daughter? Safe. For now. Put down the gun, Elena. We need to talk about your future. Elena's finger tightened on the trigger. I'm going to kill you. No, you're not. Because if I don't call my associates in the next 30 seconds, they're going to put a bullet in your 6-year-old daughter. Now put down the gun. The weapon clattered to the floor. Hollis's smile widened. There's my good girl. Elena's hands trembled at her sides. The gun lay on the floor between her and Hollis, useless now, a symbol of every choice she no longer had. Where is Maya? I told you, safe. Hollis kept the gun pressed against Patricia's skull, his voice calm, conversational, as if they were discussing the weather. For now, that can change very quickly depending on how cooperative you decide to be. If you hurt her, You'll what? You're a ghost, Elena. Legally dead. A fugitive. A traitor. Nobody's coming to save you. Nobody even knows you're alive, except the people in this room. Patricia whimpered softly. Elena's mother had always been strong, unshakable, but the barrel of a gun against your head changed people. Mom, it's okay. It's going to be okay. Don't make promises you can't keep, Hollis said. It's unbecoming. What do you want? The same thing I wanted 4 days ago when you forced my hand. The evidence. All of it. Every copy, every backup, every scrap of paper you squirreled away like the paranoid little rodent you are. He gestured with the teddy bear Patricia still clutched. Start with what's inside Mr. Buttons. Elena's mind raced. Marcus was outside. Shadow was outside. They knew something was wrong by now. They had to know. But they didn't know about Maya. The flash drive. That's all I have. Liar, Hollis's voice hardened. You think I don't know you? I watched you for 5 years. Mentored you. Shaped you. You're meticulous. Obsessive. You would never put all your eggs in one basket. There were other copies. At my apartment. My locker. You already destroyed them. And the cloud backup the encrypted server you rented under a false name, the safety deposit box in Toledo. Elena felt her blood freeze. He knew. He knew everything. I see understanding dawning, Hollis smiled. You're good, Elena, but I'm better. I've been doing this for 20 years. Every precaution you took, I anticipated. Every safeguard you created, I dismantled. The flash drive is the last piece. Give it to me, and this all ends. Ends how you let us go. Hollis laughed. A genuine laugh, warm and paternal, the laugh she remembered from commendation ceremonies and holiday parties. Of course not. Don't be naive. But I can make it quick. Painless. Your mother goes to sleep and never wakes up. Your daughter has an accident. Tragic, but clean. No suffering. You're a monster. I'm a realist. The world runs on money, Elena. Not justice. Not honor. Money. I realized that 20 years ago, and I've been profiting ever since. You could have been part of it. You should have been part of it. But you had to be noble. He spat the word like a curse. I gave you every opportunity to look the other way, to take the bonuses and not ask questions. But you just couldn't help yourself. You had to dig. You had to know. People are going to die because of what you're selling. People die every day. At least this way their deaths mean something to someone's bottom line. Patricia's voice cut through the tension, thin and reedy with fear, but steady with something else. Defiance. My husband was a police officer. He died protecting this city. And you disgrace everything he stood for. Hollis pressed the gun harder against her head. Your husband was a fool who died for nothing, just like your daughter is about to die for nothing. Unless she cooperates. Mom, please. Be quiet. No. Patricia's eyes met Elena's. I won't be quiet. I won't let this animal use me against you. She moved so fast that neither Elena nor Hollis had time to react. Patricia twisted sideways, driving her elbow into Hollis's ribs with surprising force. The gun discharged the sound deafening in the small room, and Patricia screamed as she fell. Elena dove for her weapon. Hollis recovered faster than she expected, swinging his gun toward her, but the shot had gone wild, and Elena was already rolling her fingers, closing around the grip of her pistol. She fired from the floor. The shot caught Hollis in the shoulder, spinning him sideways. He crashed into Maya's dresser, sending stuffed animals tumbling. "Mom!" Patricia lay on the floor, clutching her arm. Blood seeped between her fingers. "I'm okay. It's just a graze. Get him, baby. Get him for Maya." Hollis was already moving toward the window, one hand pressed against his wounded shoulder, the other still holding his gun. Elena raised her weapon to fire again, but he moved faster than a wounded man should. "You think this changes anything?" He laughed through gritted teeth. "Maya dies in 30 minutes if I don't make that call. Kill me, and you kill her." He threw himself through the window glass, shattering as he disappeared into the darkness outside. Elena ran to the window. She could see him stumbling across the backyard, heading for the surveillance van. "Elena!" Marcus's voice crackled in her earpiece, forgotten in the chaos. "We heard shots. What's happening?" "He has Maya. Hollis has my daughter." Silence. Then, "Where?" "I don't know. He said she dies in 30 minutes if he doesn't call." "Then we have 30 minutes to find her." Elena turned back to her mother. Patricia was sitting up now, pressing a pillowcase against the wound on her arm. "Go," Patricia said. "I'll be fine. Find my granddaughter." "Mom, Elena, Marie Vance, you do not have time to argue with me. That monster has Maya. Now go." Elena grabbed the teddy bear from where it had fallen and sprinted down the stairs. Marcus met her at the back door, Shadow pressed against his leg, both of them ready for violence. "The van," Elena gasped. "He's heading for the surveillance van." They burst out of the house just in time to see the van's taillights disappear around the corner, tires screaming. "Torque, we need pursuit! Now!" "Already moving. I've got eyes on a black van heading east on Riverside. Don't lose him." "I never lose anyone." Marcus grabbed Elena's arm. "We need to move. Bishop extract path. Compromised. Police response is inbound. You've got maybe 2 minutes before that street is crawling with uniforms. Alternative. There's an alley 3 houses down. Leads to a parking structure. I can have a vehicle waiting." "Do it." They ran. Elena's hip was on fire, every stride sending bolts of agony through her core, but she didn't slow down. Couldn't slow down. Maya's face swam in her mind, that gap-toothed smile, those trusting green eyes. 30 minutes. The alley was narrow and dark, reeking of garbage and urban decay. Shadow led the way, his nose-twitching ears alert for threats. Marcus supported Elena when she stumbled, half carrying her the last 100 yards. A gray sedan waited in the parking structure, Bishop behind the wheel. "Get in." They piled into the back seat, Shadow cramming himself into the footwell. Bishop hit the gas before the doors were fully closed. "Torque status." Van turned north on Industrial. "I'm half a block back. He doesn't know I'm on him." "Don't let him reach wherever he's going. We need him alive." "Copy that. But he's driving like a man who knows he's dying. Erratic. Dangerous." Elena clutched the teddy bear against her chest, feeling the small, hard lump of the flash drive inside. She'd risked everything for this evidence. Her career, her life, her family. Now her daughter might pay the price. "This is my fault." Marcus looked at her sharply. "No. I should have destroyed the evidence. I should have let Hollis win. Maya would be safe if I had just... If you had just what allowed a traitor to sell weapons, that could kill thousands of innocent people, betrayed every oath you ever took. She's 6 years old, and she's going to grow up knowing her mother was a hero. We're going to find her, Elena. We're going to save her. But I need you focused. Can you do that? Elena closed her eyes, drew a breath, found the cold, hard center that 8 years of police work had built inside her. Yes. Good. Now tell me everything you know about Hollis's operation. Safe houses associates anywhere he might take a hostage. There's a warehouse, East Side. He used it for interrogations off-book stuff that never made it into reports. I only know about it because I followed him there once. Address, 4415 Graciot Avenue. There's a basement. Bishop, you hear that? Heard it. Rerouting now. Torque. What's your status? Static. Then Torque's voice tight with tension. He made me. He's accelerating. I'm going to lose him in the industrial district if I don't. The sound of crunching metal exploded through the earpiece, followed by Torque's scream. Torque, nothing. Torque, respond. More static. Then faintly, I'm okay. The bastard sideswiped me into a concrete barrier. Vehicles disabled. I'm on foot, but he's gone. Direction. East, toward the warehouse district. Marcus and Elena exchanged looks. 4415 Gratiot, Elena said. He's taking her there. Bishop floored the accelerator. The warehouse loomed out of the darkness like a dead thing, a hulking mass of crumbling brick and shattered windows that had been abandoned so long that even the graffiti artists had given up on it. They approached on foot, leaving the car 2 blocks away. Shadow moved ahead of them, his body low to the ground, ears flat against his skull. I count 2 guards, Bishop murmured, studying the building through a compact scope. Front entrance, armed, professional. Back way in, loading dock, but it's exposed, 50 yards of open ground. Marcus considered their options. 2 guards meant more inside. Hollis had planned for this. He'd known someone would come for the girl. Elena, you're in no condition for a frontal assault. I'm going in. Listen to me. No, you listen to me. Elena's voice was quiet, intense. That's my daughter in there, my 6-year-old daughter. I don't care if I have to crawl through broken glass and barbed wire. I am going in. Marcus studied her face in the darkness. Saw the same steel he'd seen in operators who'd spent 20 years in the teams. Okay, but we do this my way. Bishop, I need a distraction at the front entrance. Nothing lethal, just enough noise to draw those guards away. I can do that. Elena, you and Shadow go through the loading dock. Find Maya. Get her out. Oh, what about you? I'm going to have a conversation with Derek Hollis. Marcus, he's mine. He has information we need. Names of his buyers. Locations of the weapons that already shipped. If we kill him, all of that dies with him. Elena's jaw tightened. Fine. But when you're done extracting information, I want 5 minutes alone with him. Fair enough. They separated. Bishop circled toward the front, his silhouette disappearing into the shadows. Elena and Shadow moved toward the loading dock, hugging the walls of adjacent buildings. Marcus approached the side entrance, the one that didn't officially exist, the one Elena had described from her surveillance months ago. The door was rusted, but not locked. He slipped inside. The warehouse was cavernous and dark, filled with the skeletons of machinery that hadn't run in decades. Marcus moved through it like water, silent, invisible, every sense alert. He could hear voices ahead. 2 men arguing. Should have killed her at the house. Hollis wants leverage. The mother is leverage. The mother is shot. The grandmother is a loose end. This whole thing is falling apart. Marcus crept closer. Where's the kid? Basement, with Hollis. He's calling his overseas contacts, trying to arrange an extraction. We're not going overseas. I didn't sign up for that. You signed up for the money. The money's going wherever Hollis goes. But a crash from the front of the building cut off the conversation. Bishop's distraction. What the hell was that? Check it out. I'll watch the stairs. One set of footsteps moved away. Marcus waited until they faded, then approached the remaining guard from behind. He struck fast and silent, his arm wrapping around the man's throat, cutting off blood to the brain. The guard struggled for 3 seconds, then went limp. Marcus lowered him to the ground and moved toward the basement stairs. Elena reached the loading dock just as the distraction went off. The guards at the front entrance were running toward the noise, leaving her path clear. Shadow moved beside her, his body tense, his nose working overtime. He could smell something. Someone. The loading dock doors were chained, but the chain was old and corroded. Elena found a rusted pipe and used it as a lever, snapping the links with a sound that seemed deafening in the silence. She slipped inside. The warehouse floor was a maze of debris and shadows. Elena navigated by instinct, following Shadow, trusting the dog's senses more than her own. Then she heard it. A child crying. Maya. The sound came from below. Elena found the stairs and descended, Shadow at her heels, her gun raised and ready. The basement was lit by a single bare bulb, harsh and clinical. Hollis sat in a chair against the far wall, his wounded shoulder crudely bandaged, a phone pressed to his ear. And there, bound to a chair in the center of the room, was Maya. Her face was tear-streaked. Her eyes huge with terror, a strip of duct tape across her mouth. But she was alive. She was alive. Maya. Hollis looked up. He saw Elena. He saw the gun. And he smiled. You made it. I'm impressed. Truly. Let her go. Or what? You'll shoot me. You had that chance upstairs. You couldn't do it then. You can't do it now. I shot you in the shoulder. Yes, and it hurts terribly. But you could have killed me. You didn't. He stood slowly, keeping the phone pressed to his ear. I'm in the middle of arranging my departure. My associates are very interested in meeting you, Elena. They think you might have value. A corrupt American cop willing to sell secrets. Very marketable. I'm not corrupt. Everyone's corrupt. It's just a matter of price. Shadow growled low in his throat, his eyes fixed on Hollis. Ah, the famous war dog. I've heard about him. Belgian Malinois, isn't he beautiful animal? I wonder how he'd look mounted on my wall. Elena's finger tightened on the trigger. Mom. Maya's voice, muffled by the tape, but unmistakable, cut through the tension. The girl had seen Elena. Her eyes were flooding with tears, but now they were tears of hope, not terror. I'm here, baby. I'm going to get you out. How touching. Hollis moved toward Maya, positioning himself behind the chair. But I'm afraid this reunion is going to be brief. My extraction team will be here in 20 minutes. They have instructions to kill anyone who isn't me. Then I have 20 minutes to end this. You have nothing. The evidence is useless without someone to present it. You're a fugitive. Your mother is wounded. Your daughter is... He reached down and pressed something cold against Maya's temple. A gun. A second gun that Elena hadn't seen. Entirely dependent on my goodwill. You're bluffing. You need her as leverage. Leverage against whom the FBI doesn't negotiate with terrorists. The Navy certainly doesn't negotiate with terrorists. You're the only one who cares if this child lives or dies, and you're standing here doing absolutely nothing. Maya whimpered. The sound tore through Elena like shrapnel. What do you want? I want you to put down your weapon. I want you to walk over here and kneel beside your daughter. And I want you to hand me that teddy bear. Elena's grip on the gun didn't waver. If I do that, you'll kill us both. Probably. But if you don't do it, I'll definitely kill your daughter. Right now, while you watch. He pressed the gun harder against Maya's head. Choose. Elena looked at her daughter, at the terror in those green eyes, at the innocence that was about to be destroyed. She lowered her weapon. Smart girl, Hollis's voice was triumphant. Now kick it away, slowly. Elena kicked the gun. It skittered across the concrete floor out of reach. Now walk toward me, hands where I can see them. Elena walked. 1 step, 2, 3. She was 5 feet away when the shadows behind Hollis moved. Marcus Cole rose out of the darkness like death itself, his arm wrapping around Hollis's throat, his hand clamping down on the gun before it could fire. Let her go. Hollis struggled, but Marcus's grip was iron. I'll kill her. No, you won't. Marcus twisted the gun from Hollis's hand. The weapon clattered to the floor. Then he drove his knee into the back of Hollis's leg, dropping him to his knees. Elena ran to Maya, tearing the tape from her mouth, fumbling with the ropes that bound her. Mommy! I'm here, baby. I've got you. I've got you. She pulled Maya into her arms, holding her so tight it probably hurt, but Maya didn't complain. She just buried her face in her mother's shoulder and sobbed. Behind them, Marcus was securing Hollis with zip ties, his movements efficient and professional. It's over, Elena whispered into Maya's hair. It's over. You're safe. But Hollis's laugh cut through the moment. Over? This isn't over. Do you have any idea what you've stumbled into? The people I work for don't stop. They don't forgive. You've signed your own death warrants. Marcus hauled him to his feet. Tell me their names. Go to hell. I've been there. It's overrated. Marcus's voice was ice. I'm going to ask one more time. Then I'm going to let the dog have you. Sunshadow stepped forward, teeth bared a growl rumbling in his throat that seemed to shake the walls. Hollis's eyes widened. You wouldn't. Try me. The standoff lasted 3 seconds, then 5, then 10. Hollis broke. Volkov, Victor Volkov. He's the buyer. The weapons are being transferred through a shell company in Cyprus. The shipment leaves Detroit Harbor in 6 hours. Where exactly? Pier 7. Container ship called the Meridian Star. The guidance systems are in a cargo pod, marked with a blue X. Marcus looked at Elena. You got that? Elena nodded, still clutching Maya against her. What do we do with him? Marcus considered the question. He looked at Hollis, at the man who had betrayed his badge, his country, and the woman who had trusted him. We give him to someone who cares about justice more than I do. He pulled out his phone. Commander Vance. This is Marcus Cole. I have something you're going to want to see. Bishop's voice came through the earpiece, tense and urgent. Marcus, we've got a problem. Multiple vehicles approaching from the east. Looks like the extraction team came early. Marcus hauled Hollis to his feet. Time to go. They moved fast, Elena carrying Maya, Marcus dragging Hollis' shadow, covering the rear. The stairs seemed endless, each step a race against the approaching threat. They emerged onto the warehouse floor just as the first flashlight beams cut through the darkness. There? Stop them! Gunfire erupted behind them. Marcus shoved Hollis forward, using the man as a shield, bullets pinging off the machinery around them. Elena ran Maya's face buried against her shoulder, the child's small hands clutching her neck. The loading dock was 20 yards away. Then 15. Then 10. A bullet grazed Marcus's arm. He didn't slow down. They burst through the loading dock doors into the cold night air. Bishop's car was waiting, engine running. Get in. Elena dove into the back seat with Maya. Marcus threw Hollis into the trunk, not caring about comfort, and slammed the lid shut. Go, go, go! Bishop hit the gas. The warehouse receded behind them, along with the gunfire, and the shouts of Hollis's extraction team. Elena held her daughter, tears streaming down her face as the city streamed past the windows. "Mommy." Maya's voice was small, trembling. "Yes, baby. Is the bad man gone?" Elena looked toward the trunk where Hollis was secured. "Yes," she said. "The bad man is gone." But even as she spoke the words, she knew they were only half true. Hollis was captured, but his buyers were still out there. The weapons were still scheduled to ship. And somewhere in the darkness, Viktor Volkov was waiting. This wasn't over. It was just beginning. Maya fell asleep in Elena's arms before they reached the safe house, her small body finally surrendering to exhaustion after hours of terror. Elena held her daughter against her chest, feeling the warmth of that tiny heartbeat, and made a silent promise that she would never let anyone hurt this child again. The safe house was a different location now, a farmhouse 30 miles outside the city that belonged to one of Bishop's contacts. Too many people knew about the auto shop. Too many trails led back to the warehouse district. They needed somewhere clean, somewhere off every grid that Hollis's people might access. Patch was waiting when they arrived, his medical bag already open, his face grim as he assessed the new injuries. "You look like hell," he told Marcus, examining the bullet graze on his arm. "Feel like it too." And the woman reopened some stitches, nothing critical. The child, scared but physically unharmed. Patch nodded, already threading a needle. "Small mercies." Elena carried Maya to a bedroom in the back of the farmhouse, laying her gently on an old quilt that smelled like lavender and mothballs. The girl stirred, her eyes fluttering open. "Mommy, are we safe?" "We're safe, baby. Go back to sleep." "Will you stay with me?" "I'll be right here, I promise." Maya's eyes closed again. Within seconds, her breathing deepened into the rhythm of genuine sleep. Elena stood there for a long moment, watching her daughter's face in the dim light. 6 years old. Still young enough to believe in monsters under the bed and fairy godmothers who made everything better. Old enough now to know that real monsters wore badges and smiled while they destroyed lives. What had this night cost her daughter? What nightmares would Maya carry into adulthood? Elena bent down and kissed Maya's forehead. "I'm going to make this right," she whispered. "I swear to God I'm going to make this right." She found Marcus in the kitchen, his arm freshly bandaged, studying a map spread across the table. Bishop and Torque were there too, Torque sporting a spectacular bruise across her left cheek from the crash earlier. "How is she?" Marcus asked. "Sleeping, finally." "Good. She's going to need her strength. We all are." Elena looked at the map. Red circles marked several locations along the waterfront with handwritten notes in Bishop's precise script. "The Meridian Star." Hollis said the weapons are on board. Container marked with a blue X. Ship is scheduled to depart at 6 a.m. That gives us 4 hours. "What's the plan?" Marcus straightened up, his expression hardening into something Elena recognized. The face of a man who had made impossible decisions before and was preparing to make another one. "We have 2 objectives. First, stop that shipment. Those guidance systems cannot leave American waters. Second, capture Viktor Volkov. Hollis was the middleman, but Volkov is the buyer. He's the one with connections to terrorist networks overseas. Without him, we cut the head off the snake. And with him we have leverage, names, networks, the kind of intelligence that could prevent attacks for years to come." Torque leaned forward. "What about the authorities' FBI Coast Guard, someone with actual jurisdiction? Already contacted, but bureaucracy moves slow and we don't have time for warrants and task force meetings. By the time they mobilize, that ship will be in international waters." So we go in ourselves. We go in ourselves. Bishop tapped the map. Pier 7 is heavily guarded. Private security plus whatever muscle Volkov brought with him. I count at least 15 men, maybe more. 4 against 15, Torque said. I've seen worse odds. You haven't seen these men. Volkov's security detail is former Spetsnaz, Russian special forces. They're not street thugs with guns. They're trained killers. Elena felt a chill run down her spine. She'd been a cop for 8 years, but nothing in her experience had prepared her for this. Street criminals were one thing. Former Russian special forces were something else entirely. I'm going, she said. Marcus shook his head. Elena, you're injured. You have a daughter who needs you. This isn't your fight. The hell it isn't. Hollis was my mentor. He betrayed my badge, my oath, everything I believed in. And he did it while I stood there trusting him like a fool. I earned the right to see this through. Seeing it through might mean not coming back. Then at least I'll die knowing I did everything I could. Marcus studied her face. Whatever he saw there made him nod slowly. Okay, but you follow my lead. No heroics, no improvisation. We work as a team or we die as individuals. Understood? Good. He turned back to the map. Here's how we do this. The trunk of Bishop's car was still occupied. Derek Hollis lay in the cramped space, his wrists zip-tied behind his back, his wounded shoulder throbbing with every breath. Nobody had come to check on him for hours. He'd shouted, cursed, threatened, and finally fallen into a sullen silence when it became clear that no one was listening. But Hollis wasn't worried. He had survived 20 years in the shadows by always having a backup plan. And his backup plan was already in motion. The tracking device embedded in his belt buckle had been transmitting since the moment they'd captured him. By now, his people would have triangulated his position. They would be mobilizing, preparing to extract their valuable asset before he could talk. And when they came, Hollis would make sure that Marcus Cole and Elena Vance died screaming. He just had to wait. Marcus gathered the team outside, away from the farmhouse where Maya slept. We move in 90 minutes. That gives us time to reach the harbor, scout the perimeter, and get into position before the ship starts loading. What about him? Torque jerked her thumb toward the car. Hollis stays here. Patch will guard him until we get back. And if we don't get back, then Patch calls the number I gave him, and the FBI inherits our mess. Bishop was checking his rifle, his movements precise and mechanical. Entry point. There's a maintenance access tunnel that runs under the pier. Old construction probably forgotten by everyone except the rats. It puts us inside the security perimeter without having to breach the front. And once we're in, Torque takes out the power. Bishop provides overwatch from the crane. Elena and I locate the container and secure the cargo. Shadow tracks Volkov. You're putting a lot of faith in that dog. Marcus smiled, the first genuine smile Elena had seen from him. Shadow's never let me down. He won't start now. As if summoned by his name, the Belgian Malinois emerged from the darkness, padding silently to Marcus's side. His ears were up alert, his eyes scanning the perimeter with the watchfulness of a creature bred for war. Elena reached down to stroke his head. Shadow leaned into her touch, accepting her as part of the pack. He really did save my life, she said quietly. He does that. How did you train him to find people like that, in the dark, in a storm? I didn't. Shadow trained himself. Dogs like him, they sense things humans can't. Fear, pain, the specific chemical signature of someone dying. Marcus's voice was soft, reverent. I like to think he found you because he knew you were worth saving. Elena didn't know how to respond to that, so she just kept petting the dog, feeling the solid warmth of him under her palm. We should go, Bishop said. If we're doing this, we need to do it now. Marcus nodded. Elena, one more thing. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a small digital recorder. What's this? Insurance, Everything Hollis told us about Volkov, the shipment, the buyers, it's all on here. If something goes wrong tonight, if we don't make it back, this gets delivered to the FBI, the DEA, every news outlet in the country. You really think it might come to that? I think hope for the best and plan for the worst. Tonight is definitely worst territory. Elena took the recorder and slipped it into her pocket. Nothing's going to go wrong, she said. We're going to stop that ship, capture Volkov, and come home to our families. From your lips to God's ears. They moved out 5 minutes later, leaving Patch behind with a shotgun and instructions to shoot Hollis if he tried anything. The old medic had just shrugged. Wouldn't be the first time I've killed a man who deserved it. Won't be the last. The drive to the harbor took 45 minutes. Elena spent the time checking and rechecking her weapon, running through the plan in her head, trying not to think about all the ways it could go wrong. Maya's face kept floating into her mind, that gap-toothed smile, those green eyes full of trust. You're thinking about your daughter. Elena looked up. Marcus was watching her from the driver's seat, his eyes reflected in the rearview mirror. Is it that obvious? I'd be thinking about her too if she were mine. Do you have kids? No, never had time. The teams don't exactly encourage family life. Do you regret it? Marcus was quiet for a long moment. I used to think I didn't. The mission was everything. The brotherhood. The purpose. But lately I've been wondering what it all meant. What legacy I'm leaving behind. You're leaving behind people you saved, lives you protected. That's a legacy. Is it, most of the people I saved will never know my name. Most of the lives I protected don't even know they were in danger. Maybe that's the point. You don't do it for recognition. You do it because it's right. Marcus's eyes met hers in the mirror. You sound like you've thought about this. 8 years walking a beat teaches you a lot about why people do what they do. The ones who are in it for the glory, they burn out fast. The ones who last are the ones who genuinely believe in something bigger than themselves. And you? What do you believe in? Elena considered the question. I believe in justice. Real justice, not the kind that gets negotiated in courtrooms and traded away for political convenience. I believe that people who hurt others should face consequences. And I believe that if good people don't stand up, evil wins by default. That's a heavy burden to carry. It is, but someone has to carry it. The harbor appeared ahead of them, a sprawl of lights and shadows against the dark water of the lake. Somewhere out there, a ship was loading weapons that could kill thousands. And somewhere on that ship, Viktor Volkov was counting his money. Not for long. They left the car half a mile from the pier and proceeded on foot. Shadow took point, his nose leading them through the industrial maze of warehouses and shipping containers. Bishop split off toward the crane, his rifle slung across his back. Torque headed for the power substation, a bag of tools over her shoulder. That left Marcus and Elena moving through the shadows toward the maintenance tunnel that would take them under the security perimeter. Stay close, Marcus whispered, and stay quiet. The tunnel was exactly as advertised, dark, cramped, and forgotten. Water dripped from the ceiling and the walls were slick with decades of accumulated grime. Elena had to crouch to fit her injured hip, screaming with every step. But she didn't complain, didn't slow down. Kept her eyes on Marcus's back, and kept moving. They emerged inside a storage building on the edge of the pier. Through the dirty windows, Elena could see the Meridian Star, a massive cargo ship that dwarfed everything around it. Cranes were loading containers onto the deck, and armed men patrolled the perimeter. I count 12 guards, Marcus murmured, scanning through a compact scope. Plus crew, plus whoever's inside. Where's Volkov? Don't know yet. Shadow. The dog's ears perked up. He sniffed the air, then pointed his nose toward the ship's bridge. Top deck. He's up there watching his investment. Then that's where we're going. Wait, Elena grabbed his arm. Marcus, there's something wrong. What? The guards, look at how they're positioned. They're not watching the perimeter, they're watching the dock. Marcus followed her gaze. She was right. The guards weren't scanning for external threats. They were focused inward toward the ship. They're expecting trouble. Not just expecting, they're ready for it. As if on cue, a voice crackled over a radio somewhere nearby. All units be advised. We have confirmation that the package has been compromised. American operatives are en route. Lethal response is authorized. Elena's blood ran cold. They know we're coming. How? We were careful. No one followed us. Hollis? The word came out like a curse. He must have some way to communicate with them, a hidden device, something we missed. Damn it. Marcus keyed his earpiece. Bishop Torquay, we're compromised. They're expecting us. Bishop's voice came back tight with tension. I'm already in position. I can see movement on the pier. They're reinforcing. How many? A lot, 20 maybe more, and they're spreading out. They're going to find the tunnel entrance. Torque, I'm at the substation. Power goes down in 60 seconds. Negative, hold your position. The plan's changed. What's the new plan? Marcus looked at Elena. She saw the calculation in his eyes, the rapid assessment of risks and options that combat had trained into him. We improvise. He moved toward the door, Shadow at his heels. Stay behind me. When the shooting starts, you find cover, and you stay there. Marcus, no arguments. If I go down, you get out. You get back to Maya. You make sure that recorder reaches the people who can use it. I'm not leaving you. You are if I tell you to. That's the deal. Take it or stay here. Elena wanted to argue. Wanted to tell him that she hadn't come this far to hide while others did the fighting. But she saw the look in his eyes and understood. This wasn't about her. It was about the mission, the evidence, the truth that had to survive even if they didn't. Okay, she said. But I'm not hiding. I'm covering your 6. Marcus almost smiled. Fair enough. They moved out into the night. The first shot came 30 seconds later, a sharp crack that echoed across the water. One of the guards went down Bishop's handiwork from his perch on the crane. Then everything exploded into chaos. Guards scrambled for cover, returning fire toward the crane. More shots rang out, the staccato rhythm of automatic weapons mixed with the deeper boom of Bishop's rifle. Marcus moved like liquid violence through the confusion, Shadow ranging ahead of him, driving guards out of cover for Marcus to eliminate. Elena stayed close, her weapon up, heart pounding so hard she could hear it over the gunfire. A guard appeared in front of her, rifle rising. She fired twice. Center, mass. The guard dropped. No hesitation. No guilt. Just action. Good shot, Marcus called over his shoulder. I've been practicing. They reached the gangway leading up to the ship. Guards were pouring down, weapons blazing. Marcus took 2 down before they could aim. Elena dropped a 3rd. Then the lights went out. Torquay's work. The entire pier plunged into darkness, security lights and ship illumination dying simultaneously. Night vision, Marcus snapped, pulling down his goggles. Elena didn't have night vision. She had instinct and training, and the warm presence of Shadow pressed against her leg. Follow the dog, Marcus said. He'll lead you. Shadow moved, and Elena moved with him up the gangway onto the ship, into the bowels of the vessel where the cargo waited. Behind her, she could hear Marcus engaging more guards. Gunfire. Shouts. The sounds of violence that had become the soundtrack of this endless night. The cargo hold was cavernous and dark, filled with rows of containers that stretched into blackness. Elena swept her flashlight across the walls of metal, searching for the blue X that would mark their target. Shadow found it first. He stopped in front of a container near the center of the hold, his body rigid, a low growl rumbling in his chest. Elena approached slowly. The blue X was there, painted on the door exactly as Hollis had described. But so was Viktor Volkov. The arms dealer stood beside the container, flanked by 2 guards, a pistol in his hand. He was tall and gaunt, dressed in an immaculate white coat that seemed to glow in the beam of Elena's flashlight. Detective Vance, I presume. His accent was thick, cultured. "I've heard so much about you." "Step away from the container." "I don't think so. You see, inside this box is the culmination of 3 years of work. Guidance systems that will reshape the balance of power in regions you can't even find on a map. I'm not going to walk away from that because a disgraced police officer asks nicely." "You're not walking away at all. It's over, Volkov. Your shipment is compromised. Your men are being eliminated. And the FBI is on their way." Volkov smiled. It didn't reach his eyes. "Is it over? Let me show you something." He stepped aside, revealing what was behind him. A man knelt on the ground, hands tied, face bloody. "Bishop." "Your sniper thought he was very clever," Volkov said. "He wasn't clever enough." Elena's heart stopped. "Put down your weapon, detective, or I put a bullet in your friend's head." Shadow snarled, ready to launch, but Elena grabbed his collar. "Don't," she whispered. Bishop's eyes met hers. He shook his head almost imperceptibly. "Don't do it," he was saying. "Let me die. Finish the mission." Elena looked at Volkov, at the gun pointed at Bishop's head, at the container full of weapons that could kill thousands. Then she made her choice. She raised her weapon and fired. The bullet caught Volkov's guard in the throat. Elena didn't aim for the arms dealer. She aimed for the man standing closest to Bishop, the one whose finger was already tightening on a trigger. The guard dropped, clutching his neck blood, spraying across the metal floor. Shadow launched before the body hit the ground. 60 pounds of muscle and fury slammed into the second guard jaws, clamping down on the man's gun arm with bone-crushing force. Volkov spun toward Elena, his pistol rising, but he was too slow. She was already moving, closing the distance, her training taking over. She grabbed his wrist and twisted. The gun discharged into the ceiling. She drove her knee into his stomach, and when he doubled over, she slammed her elbow into the back of his skull. Volkov collapsed. "Bishop!" She dropped beside him, her fingers working at the ropes binding his wrists. His face was a mess of blood and bruises, one eye swollen completely shut. "Told you not to," he rasped. "Told you to let me die." "Shut up. Can you walk?" "Can I walk? Woman, I could run a marathon right now." He couldn't. When Elena pulled him to his feet, his legs buckled, and she had to catch him. "Okay, maybe not a marathon, but I can move." Shadow had the second guard, pinned teeth still buried in the man's arm. The guard had stopped screaming and was whimpering now, all fight gone out of him. "Shadow, release!" The dog obeyed instantly, padding back to Elena's side, his muzzle dark with blood. "Good boy. Very good boy." Elena grabbed Volkov by his collar and dragged him upright. The arms dealer was conscious, but dazed, his eyes unfocused. "You're going to regret this," he slurred. "You have no idea who you're dealing with." "I know exactly who I'm dealing with. A monster who sells weapons to terrorists. A man who profits from the deaths of innocent people. I'm a businessman, supply and demand. You're a war criminal, and you're going to spend the rest of your life in a cell." She zip-tied his hands behind his back, then did the same to the surviving guard. Shadow stood watch, growling softly whenever either man moved. "Elena," Marcus's voice crackled in her ear. "Status: Volkov is secured. Bishop is wounded but mobile. We have the container." "Copy. Torque has the ship's crew locked down, but we've got a problem." "What kind of problem?" "Coast Guard is inbound, ETA 5 minutes, and they're not coming to help." Elena's blood went cold. What do you mean? Someone tipped them off that we're terrorists attempting to steal military equipment. They're coming in hot with authorization to use lethal force. That's insane. We're the good guys. Try explaining that to a helicopter gunship. Elena looked around the cargo hold. They were trapped. Below decks on a ship that was about to become a war zone. What do? We get to the bridge. The ship has a communication system that can reach FBI frequencies. We need to make contact before the Coast Guard opens fire. And if we can't... Marcus didn't answer. He didn't need to. Elena hauled Volkov to his feet. Move! I'm not going anywhere with you. She pressed her gun against his temple. Move or I'll tell the Coast Guard we had a prisoner who tried to escape. Your choice. Volkov moved. They made their way up through the ship, Bishop leaning heavily on Elena's shadow, leading the way. The sounds of gunfire had faded, replaced by an eerie silence, broken only by the distant thrum of helicopter rotors. Marcus met them on the main deck. His face was grim, his body armor scorched from a close call with something explosive. Bridge is this way. Torque's holding it. What about the guards? Neutralized. Most of them anyway. We've got maybe a dozen crew members locked in a storage compartment. They moved as fast as Bishop's injuries would allow. The helicopter sound was getting louder closer. Elena could see searchlights sweeping across the water. The bridge was a cramped space filled with navigation equipment and communication arrays. Torque stood at the main console, her fingers flying across the controls. I can't break through, she said without looking up. Military encryption. Every frequency I try is blocked. Keep trying. Marcus, they're going to blow us out of the water. Then we have 3 minutes to convince them not to. Elena pushed Volkov into a chair and turned to Marcus. Let me try. What? I'm a cop. I know the codes, the protocols. Let me try to reach someone who can call off the strike. Marcus hesitated for only a second. Do it. Elena took the radio from Torque and keyed in a frequency she'd memorized years ago. Emergency Law Enforcement Channel. Last resort. This is Detective Elena Vance, badge number 17749, Detroit Police Department. I am requesting immediate assistance. We have captured international arms dealer Viktor Volkov and secured stolen military guidance systems. Request Coast Guard, stand down. Repeat request, stand down. Static. The helicopter was visible now through the bridge windows, a black shape against the gray dawn, its weapons pod clearly visible. This is Detective Elena Vance. Does anyone copy? More static. Then a voice clipped and professional. Detective Vance, this is Coast Guard Cutter Vigilant. We have orders to treat all personnel on that vessel as hostile. You have 30 seconds to surrender. I'm not hostile. I'm a police officer. Viktor Volkov is in custody. The weapons are secure. We have information that you are a fugitive wanted for espionage. Our orders are clear. Your orders are based on lies. Derek Hollis, the man who gave you that information, is a traitor. He's been selling weapons to terrorists for years. I have evidence. Proof. That's not our concern, Detective. Surrender now, or we will open fire. Elena looked at Marcus, at Bishop, at Torque, at Volkov, who was smiling despite his bound hands. You see, the arms dealer said, the system always protects itself. You can't fight power with truth. Power only respects power. Elena ignored him. She keyed the radio again. Coast Guard Vigilant, I am transmitting encrypted evidence to your secure channel. Bank records, communications, shipping manifests, everything you need to verify what I'm telling you. She pulled the digital recorder from her pocket and connected it to the ship's communication array. Her fingers found the transmit button. This is Detective Elena Vance. I'm sending you the truth. Please, just look at it before you fire. The helicopter held its position. The searchlight pinned the bridge in harsh white light. 10 seconds passed. 20. Coast Guard Vigilant, do you copy? Silence. Then finally a different voice. Older, more authoritative. Detective Vance, this is Captain Morrison of the Vigilant. We've received your transmission. Stand by. The helicopter didn't move. Its weapons remained pointed at the ship, but it didn't fire. 1 minute passed. 2. 3. Elena's legs were shaking. Her wounded hip was screaming. But she didn't sit down. Couldn't sit down. Detective Vance. I'm here. We've verified the initial documents. FBI has been notified. They're sending a team by helicopter. ETA 20 minutes. Relief flooded through Elena so powerfully she almost collapsed. And the strike order rescinded. You're clear. Behind her, Volkov's smile finally disappeared. The next 20 minutes were the longest of Elena's life. She kept her gun trained on Volkov, watching his face cycle through denial, anger, and finally a cold, calculating acceptance. You think this changes anything? He said. I have lawyers, diplomatic connections. I'll be out in a week. Keep telling yourself that. Men like me don't go to prison, detective. We're too valuable, too connected. Someone will make a call, pull a string, and I'll walk away. Not this time. You don't understand how the world works. I understand that you sold weapons designed to kill Americans. I understand that you did it for money. And I understand that there are people in Washington who take that personally. Volkov's eyes narrowed. What do you mean? This isn't a criminal case, Volkov. It's a national security matter. You're not going to a courthouse. You're going to a black site. The kind of place where lawyers can't find you. The kind of place where the people asking questions don't care about rights or procedures or diplomatic immunity. For the first time, real fear flickered across Volkov's face. You're bluffing. Am I? The FBI helicopters arrived as dawn broke over Lake Michigan. Elena watched them land on the pier, disgorging teams of agents in tactical gear. One agent approached the ship alone. A woman in her 50s with silver hair and a face that looked like it had been carved from stone. Detective Vance. That's me? Special Agent Catherine Cross, FBI Counterintelligence. You've had quite a night. You could say that. Cross looked around the bridge, taking in Marcus Bishop Torque and the bound figure of Viktor Volkov. I've been chasing this man for 3 years, she said. 3 years of dead ends and diplomatic roadblocks, and you caught him in one night. I had help. So I see. Cross turned to Marcus. Navy SEAL. Retired. Not tonight you weren't. She didn't smile, but something that might have been approval flickered in her eyes. Your commander has been briefed. Whatever happens next, your service record will reflect your actions here. I didn't do it for my record. No, I don't imagine you did. Cross turned back to Elena. The evidence you transmitted. It's being analyzed as we speak. Preliminary assessment is that it's genuine. If it holds up, it will take down not just Hollis, but his entire network. What about my name, my reputation? That's going to take time to sort out. The press conference Hollis gave the fugitive bulletin, none of that disappears overnight. But the truth has a way of coming out. Eventually. Eventually isn't good enough. I have a daughter, a mother. They need to know the truth now. Cross studied her for a long moment. There's going to be a press conference this afternoon. The Bureau wants to get ahead of the story before Hollis's people can spin it. You could be there. Tell your side. You'd allow that? I'd insist on it. The American people deserve to know that one of their own stood up against corruption at the highest levels. They deserve to know what you sacrificed. Elena felt tears prick her eyes. She blinked them away. What about Hollis? Being taken into custody as we speak. Your friend Patch was very cooperative once we explained the situation. And Volkov, Cross's expression hardened. Mr. Volkov will be enjoying our hospitality for a very long time. I can promise you that. She turned to the agents waiting on the pier and made a gesture. 2 of them came forward to take custody of the arms dealer. As they led him away, Volkov looked back at Elena. "This isn't over," he said. "You've made enemies tonight, Detective. Powerful enemies. They won't forget." "Neither will I." They took him away. Marcus found Elena on the deck an hour later, staring out at the water. The sun was fully up now, painting the lake in shades of gold and orange. "You should get that hip looked at," he said. "I will. Soon. You did good tonight. Better than good." Elena turned to look at him. "I couldn't have done any of it without you. Without Shadow. Without all of you." "That's how it works. Nobody fights alone. Not the battles that matter." Shadow appeared between them, his tail wagging slowly. He pressed his body against Elena's leg, looking up at her with those intelligent amber eyes. She knelt down and wrapped her arms around his neck. "Thank you," she whispered into his fur. "Thank you for finding me. Thank you for not giving up." Shadow licked her face. "He's going to miss you when this is over," Marcus said. "What do you mean when this is over? You have a life to get back to. A daughter. A career to rebuild, and Shadow and I are just passing through." Elena stood up, looking at Marcus with something new in her eyes. "What if I don't want you to pass through?" Marcus blinked. "What? You saved my life. You fought beside me. You showed me what it means to have people you can count on." She took a breath. "I don't want to lose that." "Elena, I'm not proposing. I'm not asking for anything you're not ready to give. But whatever happens next, I want you in it. You and Shadow both." Marcus was quiet for a long time. When he spoke, his voice was rough. "I haven't had a home in a long time. Haven't had anyone to come back to." "Maybe it's time you did." Shadow barked once. Agreement. Marcus looked at the dog, then at Elena, then at the sun rising over the water. "Maybe it is," he said. The press conference happened that afternoon exactly as Agent Cross had promised. Elena stood at a podium in the FBI field office, cameras, flashing microphones pointed at her face. She told her story. All of it. The corruption, the betrayal, the desperate fight for survival. She told them about Hollis, about Volkov, about the weapons that would have killed innocent people if they'd reached their destination. And she told them about the people who had saved her. A retired Navy SEAL who hadn't hesitated to risk his life for a stranger. A war dog who had found her dying in a sewer and refused to leave. A team of warriors who had fought against impossible odds because it was the right thing to do. When she finished, the room was silent. Then the applause started. That night, Elena walked through the doors of her mother's hospital room. Patricia was sitting up in bed, her arm bandaged, her eyes red from crying. Maya was curled up beside her asleep. "Mom." Patricia's face crumpled. "They showed your press conference. Everyone saw it. Everyone knows." "I know. Oh, baby, what you went through, what you did." Elena crossed the room and took her mother's hand. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry for putting you through this. Don't you dare apologize. Don't you dare." Patricia squeezed her hand fiercely. "Your father would be so proud of you. So proud." Maya stirred her eyes, fluttering open. "Mommy." Elena lifted her daughter into her arms, holding her tight, breathing in the scent of her hair. "I'm here, baby. I'm here, and I'm never leaving again. Promise. I promise." They held each other as the evening light faded, 3 generations of women who had survived the worst and come out stronger. In the hallway outside, Marcus stood with Shadow, watching through the window. Bishop limped up beside him, his face still bruised, but healing. "You going to go in?" "Not yet. This is their moment." And after, Marcus thought about the question, about the future stretching out before him, unknown and uncertain but somehow full of possibility. "After we figure out what comes next, together." Shadow's tail wagged. He'd found something in that frozen Detroit sewer. Not just a dying woman, but a reason to keep fighting. A reason to believe that good could still triumph over evil. A reason to hope. 6 months passed like water through open fingers. The trial of Derek Hollis became the most watched legal proceeding in Michigan history. Every day for 3 weeks, cameras captured the former lieutenant commander's face as witness after witness testified to his crimes. Bank records, wire transfers, communications with foreign buyers. The evidence was overwhelming, irrefutable, damning. Elena testified on the 7th day. She walked into that courtroom wearing a simple black suit. Her head held high, her voice steady as she recounted everything. The discovery, the confrontation, the bullets that had torn through her body, the sewer where she'd been left to die. Hollis watched her from the defense table, his face a mask of contempt. But when their eyes met, Elena saw something else beneath that mask. Fear. The jury deliberated for less than 4 hours. Guilty on all counts. Treason. Attempted murder. Conspiracy to commit acts of terrorism. The judge handed down the maximum sentence life without the possibility of parole at the federal Supermax facility in Florence, Colorado. As the bailiffs led him away in chains, Hollis turned to look at Elena one last time. "You think you've won," he said, "but you haven't. Men like me don't disappear. We leave legacies." Elena stood up from her seat in the gallery. "So do I," she said. The courtroom doors closed behind him, and Elena felt something release inside her chest. A knot that had been tied for months, maybe years, finally coming undone. It was over. Viktor Volkov never made it to trial. 3 weeks after his capture, he was transferred to federal custody and disappeared into the labyrinth of national security detention. The official statement said he was cooperating with ongoing investigations. The unofficial truth was that he was providing intelligence on terrorist networks across 4 continents, trading everything he knew for a cell with a window instead of a black hood and waterboard. Elena didn't care about Volkov's fate. She cared about the weapons that never reached their destination, the attacks that never happened, the lives that would never be lost because a war dog had followed his nose into a frozen sewer. The city of Detroit held a ceremony in her honor. The mayor presented her with a medal. The police commissioner, the new one who had replaced the men Hollis had corrupted, offered her badge back. Elena held it in her hand, feeling the weight of it, remembering what it had meant to her once. "I appreciate this," she said. "More than you know, but I can't accept it." The commissioner frowned. "Detective Vance, you've earned the right to wear that badge more than anyone I've ever known." "That's exactly why I can't wear it. The badge didn't protect me when I needed protection. The system didn't save me when I needed saving. A stranger did. A man with a dog and a conscience." She handed the badge back. "I'm not giving up on justice. I'm just finding a different way to fight for it." The foundation was Elena's idea, born in the quiet hours of recovery when she'd had nothing to do but think. She called it the Okonkwo Foundation, named for Rita, the friend who had died creating their escape from Hollis's ambush. Rita, who had been compromised and used and had chosen to sacrifice herself rather than live with betrayal. The foundation helped whistleblowers, police officers, federal agents, military personnel, anyone who had discovered corruption within their organization and needed protection while they fought to expose it. Elena understood better than most how alone that fight could feel. How the system turned against you the moment you challenged it. How quickly allies became enemies and friends became strangers. She wasn't going to let anyone else face that alone. Bishop joined the Foundation as head of security. His eye healed, leaving a scar that he wore like a badge of honor. He still spoke in chess metaphors, still saw the world as a series of moves and counter-moves, but there was something lighter in him now, something that looked almost like hope. Torque became the Foundation's technical director, building secure communication systems that couldn't be hacked, traced, or compromised. She was still as prickly as ever, still more comfortable with machines than people, but she smiled more often now, laughed even when the mood struck her. Patch served as the Foundation's medical consultant, treating the injuries that came with fighting corruption. He was 70 years old and should have been retired, but he claimed he'd be bored without someone to patch up. Besides, he told Elena, you people get into more trouble than a battalion of Marines. Someone's got to keep you alive. And Marcus stayed. He'd planned to leave once the trial was over, once Elena's name was cleared. He'd talked about going back to California, finding some quiet corner of the world where he could finally rest. But every time he packed his bag, something stopped him. Or someone. Maya called him Mr. Marcus for the first 3 months. Then it became Uncle Marcus. And finally, one evening in late spring, she crawled into his lap while he was reading and said, I wish you were my daddy. Marcus looked at Elena, who was standing in the doorway, tears streaming down her face. I wish I was too, sweetheart, he said. The house they bought sat on 3 acres of land outside the city, far enough from Detroit to feel like a different world, close enough that Elena could reach the Foundation in 30 minutes if she needed to. It was an old farmhouse, white clapboard, with a wraparound porch, the kind of place that needed constant repair and attention. Marcus spent his weekends fixing things, loose boards, leaky pipes, a fence that kept falling down no matter how many times he reinforced it. He'd never been happier. Shadow had his own territory now, 3 acres of grass and trees and squirrels that he pretended to chase, but never actually caught. The bullet wound on his shoulder had healed into a jagged scar hidden beneath his fur, a reminder of the night he'd taken a bullet for a woman he barely knew. The dog was 8 years old now, gray appearing around his muzzle, his movements slightly slower than they'd been in his prime, but his eyes were still sharp, still watchful, still scanning the perimeter for threats that might never come. Elena found Marcus on the porch one evening, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of purple and gold. Shadow lay at his feet, head resting on his paws. Maya's asleep, she said, settling into the chair beside him. Already, she had a big day. The kids at school made her show and tell about the Foundation. She told them her mom catches bad guys, and her dog is a hero. She's not wrong. Elena smiled, reaching down to scratch Shadow's ears. The dog's tail thumped against the wooden boards. I got a call today, she said, from Agent Cross. What did she want? To tell me that Volkov's information led to the arrest of a terrorist cell in Germany. 12 people taken into custody. Enough explosives to level a city block. Marcus was quiet for a moment. That's good. It's more than good. It's proof that what we did mattered. That the people we lost, Rita Sergeant Jenks, all of them, they didn't die for nothing. Did you doubt that? Elena considered the question. Sometimes. In the dark hours when I couldn't sleep, I'd wonder if any of it made a difference. If the world was just going to keep producing men like Hollis and Volkov, no matter how many we took down. And now I know better. We can't stop all of them. We can't save everyone. But every life we protect, every crime we expose, every corrupt official we bring to justice, it matters. It adds up. She looked at him, her eyes bright in the fading light. You taught me that. You and Shadow. You taught me that one person can make a difference if they're willing to fight." Marcus took her hand, his fingers intertwining with hers. "You taught yourself. I just showed up. You did more than show up. You believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. You fought for me when I was ready to give up. I'd do it again. I know you would. That's why I love you." The words hung in the air between them, simple and true. Marcus squeezed her hand. "I love you too." Shadow lifted his head, looking between them with those intelligent amber eyes. Then he stood stretched and padded over to rest his head on Elena's knee. "I think he approves," Marcus said. "He'd better. He's the one who introduced us." They sat together as the last light faded, watching the stars emerge one by one. The sounds of summer filled the air, crickets singing, frogs calling, the distant hum of traffic on the highway. It was peaceful. It was perfect. It was home. The medal ceremony happened on a Saturday in August, exactly 8 months after the night Shadow had found a dying woman in a Detroit sewer. The Department of Defense had created a special commendation for military working dogs who demonstrated exceptional valor. Shadow was the first recipient. They held the ceremony in the backyard of the farmhouse because Shadow hated crowds, and Maya insisted that heroes should be honored at home. The guest list was small but significant. Bishop and Torque stood together near the fence, looking uncomfortable in civilian clothes. Patch sat in a lawn chair, a glass of lemonade in his hand, pretending he wasn't emotional. Patricia Elena's mother had brought a cake, shaped like a bone. And Maya, 7 years old now, stood at the center of it all, holding the velvet box that contained the medal. "Shadow," Marcus said, kneeling down to eye level with his partner, "for conspicuous gallantry in the face of the enemy, for saving lives above and beyond the call of duty, for being the best boy." He took the medal from Maya and clipped it onto Shadow's collar. The bronze disc caught the sunlight gleaming against the dog's dark fur. Shadow didn't understand the words, but he understood the tone. He understood the love radiating from the people around him. His tail wagged. Once, twice. Then he lifted his head and barked a sharp, joyful sound that echoed across the yard. Maya threw her arms around his neck. "You're my hero, Shadow. You saved my mommy." Elena knelt down beside them, tears streaming down her face. She wrapped her arms around both Maya and Shadow, holding them close. "He saved all of us," she whispered. Marcus stood back, watching the scene, feeling something he hadn't felt in years. Something that had been missing since Syria, since the ambush, since the day his team died, and he lost his sense of purpose. Peace. He wasn't running anymore. Wasn't trying to outpace the demons that had chased him for so long. The demons were still there, would probably always be there, but they didn't control him anymore. He had something stronger than demons now. He had family. Bishop appeared at his side, 2 beers in hand. "Hell of a thing," he said, offering one to Marcus. "What is this, all of it? A year ago you were running through empty streets at 3 a.m. trying to exhaust yourself to sleep. Now look at you. What about me? You're smiling, brother. I don't think I've ever seen you smile this much." Marcus took a sip of beer, watching Elena and Maya play with Shadow in the grass. "I didn't know I could feel like this. Didn't know it was possible. It's always possible. You just have to let it in. You sound like a greeting card. I sound like a man who's watched his best friend come back from the dead." Bishop clapped him on the shoulder. "You earned this, Marcus. Don't ever forget that." The party lasted until sunset. They ate cake and told stories and laughed until their sides hurt. Patch fell asleep in his chair. Torque actually danced, which everyone agreed was a sign of the apocalypse. When the guests finally left, Elena found Marcus on the porch again, Shadow at his feet. Maya asleep in his arms. "I should put her to bed," Elena said. "In a minute. I just want to hold her a little longer." Elena sat down beside him, leaning her head against his shoulder. "What are you thinking about?" "The night I found you. How close you came to dying. How different everything would be if Shadow hadn't picked up your scent." "But he did. But he did." Marcus looked down at the dog, at the metal gleaming on his collar. "You know what the amazing thing is? He didn't hesitate. He caught your scent, and he went to you. No calculation, no analysis, just instinct, just the knowledge that someone needed help." "Maybe that's the lesson," Elena said. "Maybe the whole point is that we don't think about it. We just act. We see someone in trouble and we help them. It can't always be that simple. Why not? Why does it have to be complicated? Good people help each other. Bad people don't. That's the difference." Marcus was quiet for a long moment. "You make it sound easy. It's not easy. It's simple. There's a difference." She reached down and stroked Shadow's head. The dog's tail thumped against the boards. "He taught us that. This ridiculous, wonderful, heroic dog. He didn't care about protocols or jurisdictions or political implications. He just found a woman who was dying and refused to leave her. And changed everything. And changed everything." The stars were out in force now, scattered across the sky like diamonds on velvet. Somewhere in the distance, a coyote howled, and Shadow's ears perked up briefly before settling back down. "So what happens now?" Marcus asked. Elena smiled, taking his hand in hers. "Now we live. We raise Maya. We run the foundation. We help people who need helping and fight battles that need fighting. And Shadow gets to be a dog, chase squirrels, steal food off the counter, sleep in the sun. He's earned it. He's earned everything." Marcus looked at the woman beside him, at the child in his arms, at the dog at his feet, at the life he'd somehow stumbled into, the life he'd never expected to have. "Thank you," he said. "For what? For not dying in that sewer, for fighting when most people would have given up, for letting me be part of this." Elena squeezed his hand. "Thank you for finding me. Thank you for saving me. Thank you for staying." They sat together in the darkness, two broken people who had somehow made each other whole as the night settled around them like a blessing. Shadow lifted his head one last time, scanning the perimeter out of habit, confirming that all was well. Then he sighed contentedly and closed his eyes. His work was done. The nightmares still came sometimes. Elena would wake, gasping, feeling phantom bullets tear through her body. Marcus would jolt awake, reaching for weapons that weren't there. The past didn't disappear just because the present was good. But they faced the nightmares together now. When Elena woke, screaming, Marcus was there to hold her. When Marcus couldn't sleep, Elena stayed up with him until dawn. And always, always Shadow was between them, his warm weight a reminder that they weren't alone. The darkness that had tried to claim them would never fully let go. That was the price of survival, the tax that trauma levied on those who made it through. But the light was stronger. Maya's laughter was stronger. The Foundation's work was stronger. The love they'd built from the ruins of their old lives was stronger than any shadow that could fall across it. And that was enough. That was everything. The woman who had been left to die in a frozen Detroit sewer was alive. She was loved. She was making a difference. The soldier who had lost his purpose had found it again. In a family. In a cause. In a second chance he'd never expected. And the dog who had started it, all the war hero, with the graying muzzle and the medal on his collar, slept peacefully at their feet. They had walked through fire together, through betrayal and violence and the darkest night of their souls. And they had come out the other side, not unscathed, not unchanged, but together. Always together. If this story of courage, redemption, and the unbreakable bond between humans and the animals who love them has touched your heart, please like this video and share it with someone who needs to believe that good can still triumph over evil. Subscribe to our channel and ring the notification bell so you never miss another story that reminds us why we fight. And if you believe in second chances, in the power of love to heal the deepest wounds, type Amen in the comments below. Because the truth is simple in this world of darkness and corruption, of betrayal and broken trust, hope still exists. It exists in the hearts of people who refuse to give up. It exists in the loyalty of a dog who will never leave your side. It exists in every choice we make to stand up, to fight back, to protect the ones who cannot protect themselves. The darkness tried to win that night in Detroit, but it didn't, because Shadow found her, because Marcus answered the call, because good people stood together against impossible odds and refused to let evil triumph. And that, more than anything else, is what this story is really about. Not the corruption or the violence or the narrow escapes. The love that saves us, the love that heals us, the love that makes us whole. God bless you all, and thank you for watching.